I think we're in. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 25 of UK League Chat. We're joined by Munster Rugby Gaming Academy manager Mulgrew. Mulgrew, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. You might be doing a bit better if the last game had gone a bit differently,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Didn't take him long.
it's
but
a it's a rookie roster.
yeah,
But I still think even in the loss there was, I think a lot of good moments and potential
you
showed. So,
learn from your
we
losses, don't you?
yeah, we go again tomorrow. 2 games a week. One every week. We've got to keep the pattern going.
Well, in usually like round robins, it's uh, like a 50-50 win rate would usually get you in like playoffs. I don't
Yeah.
remember UKLC how many playoffs are there?
For
I think it's top four.
Oh yeah, so well it'd
At
be like
least
scraping it then. Yeah.
at least it's not a tower format, and we still get to play tomorrow no matter what. So.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so we've got you on. We're going to talk a bit about obviously the Munster, um, well the the split they're about to have and are having. But just before we even get into that, for those that don't know, Munster um, previous to this split were Phelan Gaming, um, and have since it's not really been taken over, has it? It's kind of well, it's obviously like a rebrand, but from what I understand, is it mostly the same staff?
It's a partnership essentially. So
Mhm.
we still got all the same staff. No one's been replaced. It's essentially they help us in terms of sponsors. They help us in terms of sort of trying to get extra um, extra staff and sort of extra support structure around us. Obviously to sort of allow the players to have the best experience possible. So we're still the same people on. Still got Ferndog as last split. Wings is still in charge. We've still got the same top down structure, but it's just they come in and they help us because with the sort of resources and sort of partnerships that they have. So yeah, it's we're still in control, and it's just sort of um, them bringing their same ethos of success and being an elite sports organization, but just
Mhm.
trying to bring that into an esports space by helping us out as and when we need it.
Cool. And is there any ideas how that came about? And obviously, it might not be something you were too involved in yourself directly, but do you know if it was sort of feeling got the ball rolling on that, or how did that come around?
Um,
Do you know?
so I think there have been some articles, and I believe the development officer at Munster was sort of looking for esports to get into, but obviously a lot of the traditional ways big sports teams get involved is by buying a franchise spot in a top league, um, and that isn't necessarily possible for everyone, since the price tags are in the millions and millions.
Yeah.
So
they're a bit, aren't
yeah,
they?
a little bit more than pocket change. Yeah, I think they were just looking for a way to get involved in esports, looking for a way to um, approach a younger target demographic audience, and with us being the biggest Irish esports organization, and sort of with our history in the UKLC, being established in that league, it was just seemed like a natural partnership.
Cool. And so that announcement came out pretty much as the NLC announcement, pretty much at the same time, and Munster obviously got in the NLC. Um, so what was did you have any involvement in kind of like an application, or what was really the process to get in the NLC? Because I know when the UKLC started, there was kind of an application type thing, and I think it was a bit more public. But the NLC was kind of just like, at least to people to
Yeah.
people like us on the outside, it was just announced, and these are the teams. So yeah, what was that like? Was it something that they did have to apply, and was that kind of ongoing at the same time as the Munster stuff? Then do you know? Or?
So I wasn't really too involved in the NLC
Mhm.
process, but I believe a lot of the teams that were in the current UKLC, because I believe that was sort of the only sort of teams they're going to look for, put forward, their cases to Riot and DreamHack, and then obviously, as you saw, Barrage, M&M, and us were sort of the three orgs that, in addition to the academy teams that went over, because I think I'm not entirely sure based on results, but you know, obviously M&M have been pretty solid in terms of results over the past couple of splits. They've always been sort of top four. Barrage had a really, really good split last split, which is, you know, hats off to them, which I think helped as well. And then obviously, in regular season, obviously we came 7th and then 6th, but previous to last split, we did the insane gauntlet run, which still gives me goosebumps today. Yeah, it's fantastic. Where we ended up finishing 3rd. So I don't really know the specifics of any application, but no, I think based on like previous split results, you know, that was sort of the top 5 teams. You know, Fnatic, Excel, and then Barrage, M&M, and us, fluctuating between splits. But yeah, that's pretty much all I know.
Yeah. And what has it been like then? Because obviously you're now on the academy team, because every UK team in the NLC has their academy in the UKLC. So has there been kind of any differences for yourself in sort of the roster building type thing? Because we spoke about it a little bit off the stream, but we'd had Smeagol on before, and he said that he was at some point supposed to be the coach of the academy team, and then the plan was to kind of have like a 10-man roster situation, which I think am I right in presuming that was Ferndog's idea? Because I think he was quite a fan of that at Excel as well.
Yeah, so obviously a 10-man roster is something that is fairly common within esports now. Like Excel, obviously, a key example. the negatives of sharing a room. But yeah, obviously 10-man rosters aren't anything new in esports, and if done correctly, the sort of level of players you can get in, the flexibility you can have. You saw it with was it Shulk and the LEC transferring their ERL bot lane into the main team and based on performance. So for us, having a high performance environment is, you know, what we want to focus on. So that was what we were intending to do at the start of the split, but obviously as more details are released, we realized, you know, that wouldn't be possible, that wouldn't be allowed. So you know, our academy plans changed from if we can't have a 10-man roster, then we're going to get in the 3 best up and coming rookie talents we felt like we could find, and then get in those you know, Diva and Blue Spirits, Yepehu as our import options to sort of give some sort of stability and sort of players that, you know, that the rookies can learn from in the team.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about those plans were kind of scuppered with the details. So there was then a rule implemented that was it you just couldn't essentially have a fluid roster in that sense. So you couldn't, you know, if you wanted to, you couldn't swap your
players. Yeah, UKLC players can't play in the LC team.
Yeah. Do you know if there was if NLC or DreamHack, if they had any sort of specific reason for that? Because when I heard about that, I wasn't quite sure what really was the point.
I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Yeah.
It may be down to, you know, it being a fledgling league, so maybe they want some sort of stability with people not, you know, moving rosters around and stuff like that. Because I know some teams may not be able to field strong 10-man rosters and stuff like that, so maybe they feel like they'll wait for the league to stabilize a bit first before sort of allowing that. But I can't speak for DreamHack, unfortunately. So, you know, it's
the only thing I can think of is that, like, because obviously the qualification rules for each league is different in the NLC to the UKLC, and same with the Telia Masters, that maybe they just decided we're just going to just not allow any changes whatsoever in both. But it does feel a little bit odd, because, like, if you have got, so say, like, you've got someone who's absolutely smashing it for the academy side, wouldn't it just be better just to give them even at least 1 or 2 games in the NLC, and that isn't that how the process should work? It's kind of not just throwing them in straight away, but then actually kind of giving them a chance as a part in the main team, and then maybe the next split, if they do well, then, you know, kind of continue that. But I wonder if it's just more of a brand thing with the NLC, that they just kind of wanted to keep these branded players and keep these players for the entire split, which makes it more recognizable and easy for them to kind of create these video packages. Because the one which the NLC did on, was it Takai or something like that, which was the Ents player, and they kind of did a video package on him. That's a lot of resources to put in. Imagine if he was then benched because of they just wanted to do some changes. That kind of ruins everything like that. So where in the LEC and other leagues like that, you can kind of get away with just benching these players. Oh, we'll just leave that, put that in the back burner. But they seem like they do want to be branding at least individual players for each team.
Yeah, it's a good point, especially where they got the like the BBC deal and everything, and if you're going to get more casual viewers that don't know who every player is, and if they watch it one week and they feel like they kind of like it, and then next week all the players, well, obviously it's not going to change that much, but the players they were starting to get used to are suddenly different, then they're going to be a bit confused, I think. So I guess that kind of makes sense. So when that rule was then kind of announced, or you guys were made aware of that, was that quite late on into the roster building then? Was that a bit of a kind of a panic, a bit of a rush?
It was certainly an unforeseen hurdle, but it obviously wasn't too late. We still had enough time to sort of get what I still think is a really good roster, and more of a development roster, which is something that we wanted to do, is to use an academy team properly, and sort of allow those players to, from the very start, be given the access to the main team scrims and being able to sort of grow and develop rather than pick up bad habits. Having that structure in from pretty much their very first split, and especially the very first split in UKLC. It was a hurdle, but it was still enough time to sort of put a solid roster together.
Yeah,
I think it's a good point, because so when I did the rankings for the UKLC, I did put the academy teams a lot lower than what the other teams, like the Enclaves and stuff like that. And that's not really a detriment, I think, to what the organisations are, because I do think that a lot of these academy sides, the NLC academy sides, have gone for a development. They've gone for kind of players who they're going to take kind of a bit of a risk on. And, if you're an Enclave, if you're like a Bulldogs, if you're a London Esports, your goal is not to develop talent. Your goal is to pick the best you can do and get promoted to the NLC.
Yeah,
with the academy sides, it's different. It is about development, and it is about kind of picking up some like experienced players, but then also going around like you with Diva, like Eminem have done with Aragon, who's been around for quite a while. And that's why I did have the Enclaves, the Bulldogs, well, not the Bulldogs, but the Enclaves, like the Londons, quite high, because they have picked teams to get qualify. Where if Munster Academy gets qualified, I don't even know what can happen there. Like, do you know what happens if Munster wins?
There can't be two teams in the same league. So the academy teams wouldn't be able to go into the main thing anyway. The exact details of what that would happen, and sort of I'm not too sure on. But I think the main thing to take away with like teams like Demise, Enclave, Envision, and London is like that is their main roster. All of their resources, all of their effort, all of their time is going into that one roster. Whereas with an academy setup, the onus is always going to be on the main team and on winning NLC and on getting to EU Masters and hopefully doing well there. So the academy team is still an important part in terms of developing those players, getting them to a level where they would be able to play in the NLC at the end of the split, maybe if NLC players move on. But competing against main teams where all their budget and all their resources are on that team, when obviously it's against your academy team, it's obviously going to be a bit of an uphill battle. But I still think a lot of the academy teams, have a lot of potential and could still cause some upsets and still place and do well in the league. So it will just be interesting to see how the academy dynamic works, because it's not it's not like the academy dynamic with Excel and Fnatic in the UKLC, obviously, where it makes it difficult for anyone else to sort of really put up with them, because they had just can blast everyone else out the water with resources. With NLC, UKLC academy teams, it's not quite the same. So it'll be interesting to see how how that pans out across the split.
And I think the way that I look at like a successful academy roster is that if you can get like 2 players out of that 5 who could be NLC or above or further their career after the team which they have been at, that's a successful academy roster because you've took at least 2 out of the 5 and gave them a bigger step or improved them. It's not going to be a case like, well, sometimes it is where you get like kind of all 5 all together and they all get propelled, but sometimes it is only like 1, 2, maybe even 3 players who can take that next step. But that's the point. It's about development. It's about finding who can take that next step and who's found their level. And by having like academy rosters, I think that also does give like more teams a chance because, like you said, like there might have been some players in there who might have not played in UKLC because they are like they've never played in a team before, and there might have been just other experienced options if it was just 8 teams without an academy roster. But because of that academy roster, it gives them more of a chance for these players to actually given an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think on that? Actually, that point about the well, just having academies in general in UKLC, because we saw some people weren't too happy about that, and I didn't really understand what would be the issue myself. What were your kind of thoughts on it? Do you think it is a more of a benefit or?
On Raj, Eminem, and us having academies
Yeah.
in UKLC.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see why it would be an issue. Because as I said, previously, it's not as if we're on the same level as Excel or Fnatic and having an LEC spot and being able to put thousands and thousands into an academy team. I could understand if that was the case, because obviously we've been in the situation where in our previous split we came 3rd place. If there weren't any academy teams there, we'd have come first and we'd have gone to EU Masters. So that would have negatively impacted us that way. But I don't think that's just not the case with NLC Academy teams. So I'm not too sure why anyone would have a complaint about it. But I guess they'll have their own reasons.
I think the only complaint I can see is the fact that it kind of doesn't give like, and obviously I'm not saying that they've complained at all, but like Vipero might have wanted to have been in the UKLC. So it gives them a more increases their brand and everything like that. But I think that the fact that the UKEL is now like a classified basically 3rd tier in the UK system, I think there was a lot less complaining at that point. It felt like obviously when they announced like the NLC, the UKLC. There was and then they announced the UKLC teams. There was a little bit of just like back and forth with some like lower orgs, I believe. But then as soon as like the UKEL was kind of like recognised as a 3rd division, I think it's like, well, at least now you've got a path to this kind of tier system, and it isn't just like a regional qualifier or anything like that. And I think that's when it got better.
There were also the open qualifiers, which was actually pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And I believe it was actually 4 spots that are available through open qualifiers due to Vector with their roster difficulties. So 4 teams able to get in, and I think we did see some good orgs. So it was what was it? London Bulldogs.
London and Bulldogs, I think it was.
Yeah.
The Bulldogs obviously a very good team, and London quite a. They seem to be doing pretty well with themselves. So
yeah. London have 3 Phelan players, so if they go on and win the league, it's all us.
He's planted the seed.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to just go back to something you sort of briefly mentioned earlier. It was about you said about the academy team, or for Munster, the academy team and the main team sharing scrims. So is there much overlap? Obviously, we know that they can't have players subbed out, but do they have much interaction? Do they even? I remember back when we're talking like Misfits Academy in the UK, and we'd see about like Alfari and Shikari used to do like lane matchups 1v1 against each other and practices like that. So is there much sort of overlap with the 2 teams?
Yeah. So essentially, the way we have it is all of the main team scrims are watchable by all of the academy. So quite frequently, if we're not scrimming at the same time, some of the academy players will drop in. The academy players also, have frequent messages and talks and sort of discussions with main team players. I think a key example of that is No Name and Max Law are, pretty talkative together, sort of discussing matchups, sort of item builds, pass, stuff like that. So the way we always really wanted to do it is to have that closeness. So, if an academy player has a question about a specific lane matchup thing, they do talk to the main team players. We do sort of watch the scrims and sort of pick up on things from there. So yeah, we're pretty close, as close as you can be in an online setting to having the players all together.
What a person to learn from.
Yeah.
Like No Name. What, come from London? Was it in the UKEL? Yeah. And has come here, and it's like, oh yeah, your Max Law's here. You can learn from each other. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, a 16-year-old Grandmaster jungler being able to learn from essentially the best UK jungler with the level of experience he's had going to Worlds and in LEC. It is just really, really, really nuts, and it still blows my mind sort of every now and then when I think about it, because it's really giving him the best possible opportunity to develop and improve as a player, which is just an amazing opportunity to be able to give anyone, and especially developing UK talent. Is something that I think is really important.
And I suppose it's kind of even like sort of longer term, could be a good kind of feeder operation kind of thing. 'Cause obviously, being in the NLC, it is still an ERL, and players' goals aren't. I'd imagine for most players, they don't really aim to be in the ERL. They want to be in the NLC. So you can kind of get that situation where Max Law, I'd imagine he does want to be back in the LEC. So if he has a good split, he may well be off next season, and then he might have just been sort of grooming No Name to be the next Max Law anyway, and you've got him right there just to bump him up.
And that's how talent progression works, though, isn't it? It's all about kind of developing, mentoring, and then like if No Name can learn something from Max Law and become a better player because of that, then even if Max Law leaves, if No Name then becomes like not at the same level as Max Law, but like a similar level, a similar style, then what we've done there is we've created two good UK junglers who can compete against other players. And I also have a look at like DBL and Shikari. Shikari's probably a great person to learn off as well at points.
Yeah,
the guy's done it
top.
Yeah, exactly, and and DBL, I know again, was he London as well?
Yeah. So DBL, Blue Spirits, and No Name were all on the same London roster together last split.
Were you surprised to be able to get all of them then? Because you said that it was kind of, the plans were changed a bit fairly late on, but then London did pretty well in the UKEL, don't they? Like second last split.
Yeah, they came second. They lost, I think, 3-1 to NSG in the finals.
Yeah. So were you surprised at all to be able to get them then?
Not particularly. Because of honestly because of our main team, and because of the brands we are now, and because of the stuff we have available to us, like honestly, being able to learn from Max Law, it is a pretty amazing proposition. And Blue Spirits being able to learn from Unforgiven, who's 700 LP challenger, really really talented AD, and obviously DBL being able to learn from Shikari, four-time UK champion, been on Fnatic. That's an amazing proposition for anyone, and especially with the coaching and support staff structure we have, it was it was a good opportunity for anyone. So wasn't too surprised.
And I think even where we said about that some orgs maybe weren't too happy with it, I think even with the fact that you've got that kind of progression, and for the academy sides, it may even be more in their best interest to actually get the more up and coming players, that you're kind of not even competing for the same thing, if that makes sense, because the other sides that obviously aren't academies, their goal is to win the thing and get in the NLC, so they are going to be wanting to go, they're not, let's be honest, their interest shouldn't really be to sort of breed up and coming talent, because they need to win right now. So you're kind of almost, got two separate goals anyway. So I guess it's kind of good in that sense as well. let's talk about a bit about how the splits actually started then. So you did just come off. The academy side did just come off a game, literally minutes before we went live, and they're now 1-2. What were you guys kind of expecting? Because we've kind of spoken about that. It is more the fact that you're trying to grow the talent. So did you guys still have an expectation of where you want them to finish, or was it just kind of, the more we can teach them and the more they can learn, the better?
I mean, our goal and our aspirations and the player aspirations are obviously still to win as much as physically possible, because at the end of the day, who wants to lose? So although our primary goals and how we would measure success would be how far the players have come along, that doesn't mean that we're going to be not sort of pushing to be high up that table and to be contesting those playoff spots as much as we can. But our goal is player development, but player development can still come along with success in the split, and especially with our experienced players in Diva and Yeppe, who combined with that sort of Ricky could be a really good mix. That I think definitely, although today was a little bit of a roadblock, I think it wasn't sort of doomed and sort of the be all and end all. So I think there's a lot of potential for us to do quite. Sorry, that's just me.
Technical difficulties.
Yes, technical difficulties.
No problem. And I mean, there is 2 losses out of 3, but then if you think about it, I guess London, most people had them towards the top in their tier list anyway, and they are probably one of the stronger rosters. So even that one maybe is not as impactful, I suppose. Fair enough. And the main side, I've obviously only played 1 game so far, and it's a bit tricky because obviously we've got the 2 groups, and because it's split into 2 groups, they don't really have to play so many games. So it is only sometimes 1 game a week. So we've only seen them once so far, but it was a pretty convincing win against M&M. Do you know, or how much involvement do you have with the main team then? Because you said the players, the scrims and everything overlap. So do you still yourself have much involvement with it as well?
Not particularly in terms of the player management. Jakey, is the main team manager, so he's the one who deals with the day-to-day sort of things. But like the academy players, I drop into scrims and watch and see how they're doing. And when we have the sort of team bonding stuff, and sort of we had our sort of welcome week thing, what we did with the entire organisation, it was involved in that as well. Myself and Max Law and Reclamation, our head coach, were on a quiz team, and we did sort of inter-org quiz, and obviously came first, which was
Nice.
Which was pretty nice. But it's my day-to-day job is to focus on the attack on the academy team, and sort of make sure that the players are getting all the attention they need, and sort of making sure that they're happy and sort of learning going forward.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So do you know anything of? Well, you kind of mentioned it, that Munster's aspirations will always be to win, I suppose, and I guess if you're part of an org, it always should be that. So I presume they're looking to win that group, because they've got Fnatic is probably the main rival. I had Fnatic before I'd seen a game. I had Fnatic slightly above in my tier list, but we'll come on to predictions later, because they go against each other this week as well. So what are they?
I think that if Munster didn't say they were going to top this group, then there's something wrong. Like, because this is a side which should have aspirations to top that group. It's not like we're the underdogs kind of story. This is a good roster, and I think you would know. They know that they're a good roster, and they know that they should compete with the academy teams. We described it as it's a better Envision from last split, because Envision was this, we're the academy killers, and then Munster come in this season, we're like, no, this is the academy killers.
Yeah, and well, the one kind of question mark we had was about Sebex, because to be honest, we'd not really seen him play much, and we said that, but we were just looking at the last couple of splits, and I suppose it was his teams that were rubbish, because in the first game he was popping off, and for that to be the kind of only question mark we had, and I'm looking at it now, he had most kills in the game, so no weakness there.
Zoe was clean.
Yeah.
To put it slightly. I think Sebex is like 900 LP challenger, and he's like incredibly mechanically gifted. So I think he's definitely not a weak spot in the roster. And I think all of the team, I think as shown by the first game, are here to win, and they're here to play their style, and hopefully that will result in lots of wins going forward.
What were our thoughts on Monk in the mid lane? Because that was his debut in mid against Munster. Not impressed, Tom?
No, I still. You know what? It's the first game, and it's difficult because with like the other group, like we at least got like a couple of games to kind of see. Monk played. Did he play the Corky? Did he in the mid? Which is what you could play as an ADC anyway. In some weird situations, but it'll be interesting to see what he's like on an actual like proper, like maybe like an Azir or something, someone like that would be interesting. But it doesn't feel right to see Monk in the mid lane, just in general. Like, I don't think there's anything where I can look at it could be like, yeah, no, Monk shouldn't have been an ADC this split. He should definitely have been a mid lane. And maybe it is just a development. But I then question, do you do that development in NLC when you've got an academy side? But I guess I don't know if Monk would want to play like UKLC and stuff like that. But just feels like they're developing, which is a bit weird.
I mean, it's difficult to judge Monk or really Eminem at all too much after they've only played one game. Because obviously we are looking to be a sort of top end of the table, first, second place, going to EU Masters sort of side, and the game was a little bit of a whitewash. So I didn't think he was really given the opportunity to sort of show what he might be able to do. I think given like a few more games, we'll actually be able to see the level of Eminem a bit better. But it was definitely an unforeseen move, and something I don't think anyone else outside of Eminem was expecting. But I guess if it pays off, they're gonna look like geniuses. So, we'll have to wait and see how that happens.
Yeah.
Well, it was when Wooloo was tweeted the rumored roster for Eminem, and he was like Monk mid. I'm like, what? It's like, nah, he's made a mistake here. Like, maybe this barcode player I don't know anything about. Maybe he's the mid laner and stuff. But yeah, no.
Wooloo never makes mistakes, man. That dude is like Varys from Game of Thrones. Like, he knows absolutely everything, and I have no idea how. But fair play to him. He definitely made off season quite interesting.
Yeah. Well, he had he did like a twit longer the other day. Just saying a bit about like why he does it, and he said in there that I don't think he's like properly involved. He was just saying like. I don't think he's on a team or in part of a team or anything. He was just he said like, oh, I know some people that know stuff, and they would just randomly tell me things. So it seems like it's not even really someone like in the scene. It's just someone with mates in the scene. And now he was saying like, because he started leaking some stuff. Now people actually in the scene just directly tell him stuff for him to leak it.
So I think he started with like 3 contacts or whatever in the LEC. He said, and then. He posted some roster rumors last split, logged off Twitter, came back online, and he'd gained like 400 followers. So I think with something like that, it's something that sort of grows itself. The bigger they get and the more accurate the leaks are, the more people follow him. The more people follow him, the more people care, and the more people want to leak stuff to him. Because let's be honest, like a lot of people closely involved with the UK scene would know what the rosters are before Twitter does anyway, because you can, players talk to each other. A lot of the players trial for the, multiple sorts of teams, and sort of everyone knows. You can look at match histories and stuff, and we've had our roster leaked in previous splits. before it's been announced as well. But I think just the level at which he got to, like, fair play to him. He knows he's everywhere,
and I think there's differences in kind of leaks and stuff like that. I think with because LEC Wooloo basically classed himself as a rumor Twitter, so it's not a leak, but it's always classed as a rumor. And I think calling it a rumor over a leak is quite a smart decision to do. It's a lot different than when the NLC tweeted announced all the rosters. That is like a confirmed, like, these are the teams. Where kind of Wooloo was like, oh, especially with Munster, because it was at one point it was like, oh, these are the players. It's like, oh, I've heard that this might change, and that does genuinely garner more interest. More people are interested in kind of like transfer rumors and stuff like that. When you hear like, oh, it was going to be apparently it's Max Law, and then it's like, oh, it might not be Max Law, and vice versa, and those rumors are really, really interesting. It's different than I think kind of a leak, which is kind of like, this is the confirmed team kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think the way he actually does it is really smart.
I think sometimes, even though it is a rumor, he is right in pretty much everything. And I still think that some rumors can, even though they're not necessarily damaging, they can sort of hurt player feelings, because if something gets leaked and something is seen on Twitter before behind the scenes stuff is sort of involved and sort of talked around, that can cause problems. But I think by and large, it's a lot of fun. And our roster was leaked, for example.
Yeah. No
one believed it. They thought it was crazy. And then obviously our main announcement came, and it was like, oh my God, he was right. It's all real. Yeah. So I don't think it's not too bad.
Yeah, because I see the argument saying like that when stuff gets leaked, they say like, oh, it takes away from the orgs when they do their announcements. But I think it's the opposite, to be honest. Like, and I think it's the same thing. Well, it's for like football fans. It's just always been like that. You always get and maybe it's because I've always been a football fan. Maybe that's why I don't think it's that weird. But like, I don't know, like this, the summer when Neymar was going to PSG and PK was saying he's staying, and then when it actually happens, it's I think it's even more hype. Or even with Max Law, like, yeah, there's these rumors around it. Is he actually going there? Are those rumors actually real? Like, surely it can't be. And like before that was announced, I don't think it's harsh to say like there probably wasn't as much hype around Munster before that happened. And as soon as I saw those rumours, I was thinking, wow, they're like this, this new merge with Munster it is actually serious, and they're probably going for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can understand things. Maybe it does damage the player, and I can kind of get it if like an org sees that a player's rumoured to go somewhere, they might not try and get the player themselves or something like that. But yeah, when I see the argument about like that it could take away from the org's announcement, I think that's a load of rubbish, to be honest.
I'm waiting for kind of like when it gets like proper serious, where like leaks come in because they kind of want to, when like so in football they do it a lot. Football will intentionally leak things to the press to maybe make like a player sign a new contract or to push a player out of. And I can't wait for the UKC to eventually get like that. That's the goals.
I think it's slightly different when you're looking at it from a League of Legends and Esports perspective, because a lot of time, things are confirmed. Like you're going to get this player, but then maybe it comes up last second, another org comes in, and that player's already picked to join a certain thing. So with like building a League of Legends roster, a lot of the time you're talking to multiple different people. You've got your first choice, second choice, third choice, and you try your best to get as many first choices as you can, but sometimes things happen, and sometimes, unintended circumstances come along, with a day's notice. And if that gets leaked before a team, has a chance to sort of actually, work on it, if they find out something and then 4 hours later it's been leaked and they haven't had a chance to, deal with that, roster change, and that for me is where the concern comes from. But I don't think there's really anything that can really be helped in regards to that. But yeah, I think it's by and large just a lot of fun, and it does help build hype. And I think especially with the Maxwell thing, a lot of people when the Munster partnership was announced, didn't know what it was. Is it just they're slapping their name on and calling it a day? Are they coming in and taking over and doing their own thing? But I think when that was sort of announced, people were like, oh wow, this is a legit thing, and they're actually making a statement with this signing. And I think Maxwell was definitely a case of that.
And I thought the way that Munster especially kind of promoted the roster in the end by doing it one by one. I think there's only a few times where you can kind of do a one by one announcement. But when you've got these kind of like big name players, it works. Because like, for example, I couldn't see like a Godsent doing like a one by one because not all of them are kind of like mega known. But when you've got someone, you don't put like Shikari, Maxlaw and and the rest of them all in one kind of roster. You kind of get that feel. And I thought the roster announcement was really good as well, especially because it was like it fueled on that rumor. It's like as soon as that one was confirmed, it's like, oh, does that mean that then like the rest are actually true and vice versa?
But then it was, like we said, confirmed by DreamHack themselves,
which is wrong. That is wrong.
Yeah,
that is wrong.
I don't know if there's much you can say on it. Had they said they were like they were going to put the site live on a certain day, or was that kind of as much a surprise to you as it was to us?
Yeah, it was a surprise. To be honest, we weren't aware. Obviously, if we were, we'd have announced our roster all before that. But it's not really something that I'm particularly involved in. But we didn't know, and why or how that happened is beyond me. But it definitely caused a lot of fun on Twitter.
But even that, like, because we're saying about how the team being announced already could mess up the announcements, but like for example, Barrage, I don't think had announced a single player at that point when that got leaked. But then
Godsent hadn't as well at that point, I believe. But
then, like Barrage's announcement was just like so good, no one really cared anyway. I don't think so. You can still get away with it if it's already known. I think, but yeah.
Well, I think as well because when you come to promoting a video on a roster, like video promotion and kind of roster announcements aren't just kind of the people inside the scene, is what Barrage has kind of alluded to. It's to gain other people. And those other people wouldn't have even looked at the NLC roster, like the websites and stuff like that, unless they've seen the league. So if you can do something which can kind of gain more people, you're still benefiting from a roster announcement. Because there's no point. While engagement is really good, and you do need to have regular engagement with fans, the whole point of it is to gain more fans and to gain more engagement through that. And so, by kind of having these like these innovative roster announcements or kind of stylizing the way you're doing it, you're bringing in new fans anyway. Like there would have been people who say like I think Maxlaw had already been announced before that the NLC problem anyway. But if
I think we had two of our players to announce.
Yeah. So if say like that had happened even before that, the Maxlaw announcement still would have done well because there would have been people who wouldn't have seen the NLC.com leaks or anything like that because they're just fans of Maxlaw and vice versa.
True.
You'd have to have been in the know and really invested. And you'd have actually had to look at the site, which I don't think most people who would watch it would probably do. So it wasn't a huge leak. It's not as if they posted it on their Twitter and it got shared everywhere. But yeah, it could have been worse.
It just made me laugh. I was seeing like hat tricks. They've got like his nationality wrong, and it's like they had a couple of people's positions in the wrong place and stuff. Yeah, really
wasn't Kakan the whole of Sweden at one point? I think it was in his role. I believe it was. It was like Kakan top lane, but he said top lane, just said Sweden.
Yeah, I've never seen that option when you lock in the client. That's weird. I think it might be time then if we move on to some predictions for this week, and we're going to spice things up a bit. I don't know if you've seen, Josh, that we started it last split. We do our weekly predictions as the splits go in, and we tally up the points. So it's me against Tom against our guests, and our guests are just added up, sort of each person each week. From this week, we're gonna spice it up a bit more, and we're gonna do a match of the week. So each week there's gonna be one match that's worth 2 points rather than one, and it will just be whichever match we think is either the most hyped or the most important, the biggest match, in any way.
So we picked Singularity versus Ends. No.
That's mean, Tom.
You've got Excel Riddle and you've got Munster Fnatic, haven't you?
We've gone for Munster against Fnatic,
Good choice.
which I can't wait for, because they are well, we mentioned it that they've only played one game so far. So like, really, what is one game to work out how good they are? And they are the top two in that group. So I think it's going to be one we can finally see who's the stronger. We've got a couple of games to get to until we get to that one though. So if we're starting on day one, the first one is XL against Riddle. I've gone for XL. I think that's the easy choice. Riddle have looked good though, and I've seen people saying that, well, maybe not saying yet that they are on XL's level, but definitely saying that they are a top team, at least in that group.
I said they're on the same tier of like Nordvind, kind of that. Like they could. I think. I don't think we're going to see BTXL go undefeated this split. I hope we don't, because that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Even in the groups, even though it's like a different group, I'm going to go for Riddle. I think Riddle actually can contest BTXL, and it would be nice to see Riddle beat them. I'm not gonna lie, but I do think that genuinely Riddle could compete against BTXL. I think if we look at like on the actual group, I think Group A is very, very strong in terms of the top three. Like I think you've kind of got the bottom three, but you've got a clear top three. I think in that group in Nordvind, XL, and Riddle. And this is the first time which I'm going to consider like a big clash between the two, and so I think Riddle could squeeze this one out, but I could be wrong. But because BTXL only played Godsent, and I know that obviously Godsent ended up winning, but like you'd expect BTXL, I think, to be Godsent right at the beginning, and it was a very easy game for them. So yeah, I'll go for Riddle.
I would have to go with XL. To be completely honest, I think they were really strong last split. They didn't drop a game until they got reverse swept in the finals.
Yeah.
And I think they've had some stronger performances at EU Masters as well. I think as a team, they've also been together for a lot longer than Riddle, although Riddle are, sort of a friends team. I think Riddle's young, Maxi Senkux is really good, but I think so probably outclass in the sort of other lanes and maybe as a team as a whole. And obviously we've got two XL staff at Munster, so I wouldn't want to upset them in their order. So yeah, I think it's gonna be an XL win.
I do think it's gonna be a mid jungle matchup. This I think it's so good to see Hat-Tricks and Taxa versus Maxi and Senkux, who are very, very strong duos it seems anyway.
Because to be fair, when we had Hat-Tricks on episode, and we'd mentioned about how XL last year were pretty much always playing around Deadly, and kind of asked him if he imagines that that'll be the case. Is he going to be sort of a facilitative mid laner? And he sort of said, well, no, he's going to have his games where he's carrying as well. He doesn't think he has to sort of completely mould into that. And then his first game is playing Galio, and just Galio ult bot lane every 5 minutes anyway. It was interesting though that we saw, even like Taxa and Sender were playing a bit more kind of carry style players, and they have been in the last split as well. So interesting to see them changing things up a bit. But yeah, I reckon that's an XL win for me. The next game was M&M against Dusty.
Yeah.
I'm going for M&M, but it's again especially with the teams that have only had one game, I'm still sort of just going off my tier list anyway, and we haven't, I think, seen enough of them to know really how strong some of them are. Obviously, they both lost their opening games as well. So it's a tricky one. I've gone for M&M just because I had them above in the tier list still. But yeah, I was kind of... Well, I put them really low in the tier list, and then I've seen other people saying that they're actually a fair bit higher. I think we both had them quite low.
When we looked at we put Dusty, I think it was like D tier, not D tier. It was C tier.
I think I might have even had him D tier.
Yeah, you might even and then I saw the analyst desk predictions against Tricked, and they all had Dusty, and I was like, are we just completely wrong here? I thought Tricked were like a really good side.
Yeah, and I think a Megalodontus who we had as the guest guesser.
Yeah, also
he had Tricked, and we were all right.
Yeah.
So Maybe we're the ones that are the five heads, and they're all.
But that does make me think, like, have I underestimated actually Dusty? Because let's be honest, we didn't know a lot of the players which are there. Like, we're being completely honest. I'm gonna go though. Oh, but I kind of. No, I am gonna go Dusty because I don't want to take a risk on Monk mid right now. And if Dusty is better than what we thought they were, then for me, in my like imaginary tier list, that puts Dusty above Eminem at that point. So I'll go Dusty, but Eminem could easily win this. It's just how this Monk thing works out. I wish we had 2 games with Eminem, because then I could actually kind of gauge a little bit more of an opinion on it. But yeah, I'll go Dusty.
I mean, I would have to agree. I think I would put Dusty to win as well. I think obviously Dusty have got an ex-Phelan player of Jack Spectra in the bot lane, who is incredible. He had a bit of a reputation as a Dragon one rogue, but I think one that saw him in any trials and anyone that saw him, last split, would know that his champion pool is really solid. I think you've also got Coincidence in the top lane, who's like a 1K LP challenger top, who I also think is is it Kakan that's Eminem?
I believe Kakan's Eminem's, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a bit of maybe some top gap there in terms of the other players. I'm not sure how the Jung mid duo will match up between Eminem and Dusty, but I think even though Dusty lost to Tricked, I think Tricked is going to win. Patterned off two ex-Phelan members as well, but they all have a really star. Yeah, and I think even though they lost to Tricked, I think they're I think they're probably going to beat Eminem.
I think it'd be interesting as well with Veigar V2 as well, because it basically has been confirmed that he is the head coach of Dusty, but it's also confirmed that he's basically a strategic coach of TSM at this point, which I think has been announced, which is so confusing in itself. But it's interesting because it wonders how much time is he going to split them between the two.
Yeah, I was really confused by that, actually.
The issue which we had, and we've brought it up before, and obviously now Ferndog is like a full-time head coach. The issue which we had with Ferndog at some point is he had this like general manager authoritative role where he wasn't the head coach, but he was something else in between, and that didn't seem like it was the greatest kind of use of him. But it's interesting to then see how Veigar V2 basically splits up this time between these two, if it is true with this TSM strategic coach. I know TSM haven't announced it, but apparently that's what's happened.
Yeah, I think I'd heard that he was. It might have even said on the broadcast. Well, that's what I was seeing on Twitter anyway. People saying like on the broadcast it had him as one of the drafting coaches when they were literally in draft. So yeah, that's a really weird one. I don't know if he's would have left Dusty. His league PD's not updated yet. But,
he's doing both. He's actually doing both at this point, which is to be fair, like it's probably I don't know if it's a COVID thing as well. It could be something to do with that, where it's like while he's I just don't know, but it'd be interesting to see how much time he puts into both. And it'll be interesting.
I believe he's TSM's online remote analyst. So
yeah,
I mean, I think it's feasible he can do both. From what I've heard, he's a really really good coach. And I think a lot of the analysis work is probably something he can quite easily fit into the gaps between the Dusty schedule. So I think it'll be interesting to see what effect he has on the team.
Yeah,
well, it's the same role he had at Fnatic, I believe, is what the role he's now having at TSM essentially. So again, like I said, it's just a bit weird that he's doing both. But hey, obviously it's been okay by both organisations, and they truly believe that it will work. So it would be interesting to see. It'd be interesting, to be fair, if you actually look at TSM and how TSM drafts to see if it is very similar to Dusty.
Yeah.
And see if there is going to be like little differences between that, because that would be very interesting as well. Is it like a TSM Academy in the NRL?
I think Wings is saying in the chat it's TSM Academy.
Oh, it's TSM Academy.
Ah, right.
Apparently so. But I don't think he's been announced. So I think that should that might go some way to explaining it.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the next game then. We've got Tricked against Barrage. I'm going to go Tricked again. I think I don't remember. I think I had them above Barrage in my tier list, and they obviously they won their game last week, and I was actually quite pleased to see a team win a game without just the Death Dance abuse, Ezreal, Aphelios. It was refreshing, I think, to see a different game. I think like on day one, literally every game had one of those two bot lane, or had both of those two bot lanes, I think. So yeah, I was quite pleased to see that with Tricked. I've gone for them again. Yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that one?
I
I'm gonna
like.
have to go with Tricks.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Tricks. I think, although Barrage actually they actually impressed me in their game against Fnatic. I think it was a lot closer than people would have previously expected. Yeah. But I think Tricks have a really strong roster. I think they have a coach and sort of style that would be perfect around them. So I think I think Tricks are probably going to get the win, but it's difficult to ascertain the level of Barrage because like Eminem, they've only had the one game and it was against a top 1, 2, 3 team. So they could end up surprising us. But I think at the moment, I think Tricks are probably the likely winners.
What do you think? Oh yeah, so go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
No, go on. It's fine. You can explain a little bit more, and then I might change my prediction. It's fine.
I just wanted to ask Josh what your thoughts were on Trick's roster, because we said when we were doing our tier list, we were like a bit surprised to see Soph in an NLC team. To be honest, like no disrespect, but we wasn't a name that you'd kind of think of when you were thinking of really the top junglers from the UKLC last split, when we were thinking of who would make it in. Obviously with the larger player pool now as well, that you can get sort of Nordic players. Were you kind of surprised by that at all, or is there something we haven't seen behind the scenes?
No, I wasn't surprised in the slightest. I think Soph is an incredibly talented jungler, and I think his mechanics level is really, really good. So, he's been on Phelan for the last I think it was on Phelan for like the last 3 splits now, because I think he was on the roster when I was there. So and then he was on M&M afterwards as well. So I think Soft's always been sort of underrated jungler, especially within the UK scene. But anyone that saw him in Wales, anyone that knows him knows the level he's at, and I think he's like high challenger now as well. I think he did a lot of solo queue, and obviously playing on a roster with a Chew, who he's been playing for ages now, and with Pad as well, it was even less surprising. But I think Soph is one of the next up and coming newcomers, and I think I really hope he does have a good split this year, because I think it's good to see those players sort of coming through and then making that next big step.
It's interesting as well because we've got such like a good jungle pool. It's like out of all the roles, I think jungler is the most which is picked for the UK side for the NLC, because you've got Nolte, you've got I always think Taxa is English, but he's not. He's Danish. But you've got Dan.
I think he's UK resident.
Yes, yeah. He is. Yeah, and then you've got like Soph, and then obviously you've got like No Name for you and Maxlaw as well. So there's a few like even up and coming. I'm gonna go for. I like Den Voxnate. I'm so biased towards Den Voxnate. It's ridiculous. Like every Nordavin game or Barrage game, I'm biased towards Mummus or Den Vox. So I'm gonna go. I am gonna go Trick. I think that Trick looked really, really good. And considering apparently they weren't the favourites to win that game, that I don't know. Maybe like I don't know. But I think Aaron looked pretty decent as well. I quite liked Aaron in the game, and like you said, well, Soph and Achu play very well, and you've got Pad, and Pad's a really, really good coach for any NLC side, or maybe even above. And I just think that it's difficult when you've not got more games, but I do think that Tricked will win this. However, like you said, Barrage against Fnatic Rising, I don't think wasn't as one-sided as what I thought it would be, and so if Barrage do beat Tricks, then it kind of like solidifies where this level of competitive play could be. So it's a very interesting game to see kind of where the level is in that group is as well.
I can never forgive Denvoxney and Demise for Garanyumi. So they played that against us. I think we were the first, league that I know of that were the sufferers of that Garanyumi combo.
You were the
And
first recipients.
Yeah, I think Fnatic, credited Demise and stuff like that with the Garanyumi, and it still gives me nightmares. So
yeah, it caused a lot of Fnatic fans nightmares as well. I thought.
Yes, I hated that stuff. I'm so glad it's gone.
Speaking of Fnatic, then their game on day one. Am I going for 3 Fnatic wins? Well, so we've got Fnatic Rising against Munster. I've actually gone for Munster, and I did my predictions before we knew you were coming on as well. So it's not I'm not just pandering. I do actually think they're going to win. They did just look. I mean, Munster looked so strong week 1, and again they both only played 1 game, so it is difficult. And I wouldn't be too surprised if I'm wrong, to be honest. But in the wins that they had, at least Munster looked stronger from what I saw. So I went for them. Josh, I imagine you would agree.
I mean, when it comes to think of it, no. I mean, of course, I think we're going to win. I think Fnatic over the last split have sort of shown a certain level of weakness that I don't think Excel have in previous splits. I think it's going to be a tough and a close game, but I think our sort of style that we showed versus Eminem will be, quite effective versus Fnatic, and I think we'll be able to get it. But yeah, I mean, I'm a little biased. I'm never ever going to predict us to lose. But yeah, I think it's not an unforeseen circumstance. I don't think it's completely out of the blue that we would do. Maybe in last splits it may be a bit far fetched for me to predict us to win, but with the roster and with the structure we've got in now, I think we should be able to take it.
We're still waiting for that one person who doesn't predict their side to win.
I think when we had Prosfair last year, it was like one of their games. I think they had. I want to say it was like they were against Fnatic at some point when we had him on, and and he was he went for Envision, but he was just basically saying they weren't going to like he knew they weren't going to win, but he had to predict Envision anyway. So that's as close as we'll get, I think. But yeah, what are you going for? I'm
going to go for Munster as well. This is it's important. It is an important game, but it's funny really because I think anybody would be silly to not expect these sides to be like top 2 in the group. And so, is it going to be one of those where it could either be kind of like a taster to see who's best, or just a long line of development until it reaches the playoffs? And I think it's very interesting because that's what I kind of realized last split. So when it was XL and Fnatic, like XL beat Fnatic every single time, and then when it actually got to like the actual playoffs and stuff, kind of Fnatic did their research and beat XL, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But it'll be nice to see Munster win. I do think that they have close rosters in terms of skill cap, but I would give it to Munster individually. However, I do think Fnatic right now could be a better team because they've had, it's the exact same roster which they've had for basically 2 splits apart. Is it 2 splits? They've had it now, this roster. They had a little bit with Enshi and Dan, didn't they? With Bando and Bravado as well. Yeah. So, but I think they've had time to gel. But I think it'd be a very good game, and I would like to see Munster win it.
It'd be funny if Fnatic lose, they're gonna get like the taste of the old like Tower days, where like if you lose 1 game, that's it for the week, because they've still only got 1 game this week as well. So if they lose, they would have gone basically when we wait another week, they would have gone 3 weeks essentially from the start to end without a win, and only played 2 matches, and that would be a real worry for them, I think. You could.
It's a weird format, isn't it? Really,
yeah, it's
one of those formats where obviously it has to be done this way, but it's nowhere near as bad as like the Tower format. At least that kind of like these wins kind of do mean something, and that you can kind of at least do 2. Where, let's be honest, like if you if it was the tower format, because of that loss, it wasn't just because of the loss and you weren't playing the next game. That was kind of it competitively for you for 1/7 of the split. There was no development. There's at least an even amount of games.
Like tower format, different teams, like the teams that were winning were playing like 14 games in a split, and the teams that weren't were playing like 7. Not every team would play each other. It was, I could see where they were coming from, like from a spectator point, but from like an org and a competitive integrity standpoint, it's just, I never want to think about that again.
Well, that's weird, because everyone else we've had on said they really like it and they want it back.
I'm sure they did. I'll have to take my odds on that one.
Anyway, moving on. Day 2 then, our first game, we've got Singularity against ENTS. We mentioned it a bit. Singularity did really struggle. I forget who their first game was against. I remember it being a loss that's maybe wasn't too...
Nordavind.
Nordavind
you expect.
Yeah,
I
so,
would say.
you know, not a huge worry there. But then, yeah, when they lost to that God Sent team and the kind of manner that they lost as well, was quite a worry. And, yeah, they would be clearly back to the drawing board. I'm going to put some faith in Torek. He's, you know, friend of the show. He's been on before. So I'm going to put my faith in him to turn it around for week 2, and I'm actually going for Singularity because I think I actually had them above ENTS in my tier list, I think, as well. So I've got to stick by that, and I'm not gonna cave. So yeah, I'm going for Singularity.
At the end of the day, they're both 0-2, and yeah. I can understand what you're saying. Where there's a chance where like it might have just been just a really bad day. It might have been a tilter, just the fact that they were losing early against Godsend, and then that's just a tilter in itself. But I don't know, like, for me, there felt like there were problems which isn't just going to get sorted in a week. And that's where, and I don't think that's not, and I think we will see Torek actually do really good with the team, because I do think he's a good coach. But I think it will take more than kind of one game. I think this is a good game to go against, though. Good team against ENTS, who also didn't look that good, I felt. I actually felt like they would have come out a little bit better. I kind of did predict them going 2-0, but I was silly, incredibly silly. Maybe because I wanted points more than anything, I thought, at this point. But I am going to go for ENTS, because if we see anything like that Godsent game, I don't think it's going to be a good job for Singularity. I do think they're going to improve, but I don't think they're going to make that many... There isn't going to be that much of a development change, I think, in a week. I think this is more like a 2-3 week kind of situation, which it's coming from. If I'm wrong, then Torek's done a great job. I know that he's been working kind of very hard and, you know, wanting to kind of sort these problems out like he's always wanted to do. But I do have to give it ENTS on this one, because I feel like they're a little bit more of a there's a little bit more cohesion in that team from what I've been seeing.
I mean, I would agree. I think it seems more likely that ENTS are going to win. So I'm going to go with an ENTS win. They just seem to, in the games we've seen so far, just show a little more. And I think Singularity, when you do start off like that, when you do lose to Godsent, who were predicted essentially the dead last by everyone, I think that can have a knock-on effect on your sort of confidence. And I think it wasn't like there was, you know, they were just, it was a fiesta, and so I think ENTS are probably a bit more stable and you know, more likely to take the win.
Fair enough.
And ENTS did, while going 0-2, did lose. I think it was Nordavind and Riddle, so they both lost to Nordavind, and then Riddle is considered like a strong side as well, for what I'm being told anyway. So I expected ENTS to be kind of like that middle of the table pack, and if you looked at kind of those rosters, I probably would have said, yeah, like 0-2 for both of them right now. I would have expected Singularity to go 1-1 and ENTS to have gone 0-2 if I was being smart about predictions and stuff, but I wasn't. But yeah, I just think ENTS are a better team. I like Kievo as well, and hopefully we get to see a bit more from Kievo, I think.
Yeah, because I thought he was... Well, I wasn't too impressed with Kevo last week, to be fair, because I thought, you know, even the comps, let me just double check what they were playing, because it seemed to me like they even had, because they were, you know, another team that were playing the like Ezreal or Phelios. I think he played Ezreal both games, but then he had like yeah, he was like the first game against Riddle, and again we say that Riddle are probably one of the stronger teams, so maybe it's not such a worry. But he had like Orn, Skarner, Oriana on his team, and it's like if that's not a comp that can stop you getting caught with Ezreal, who's with his E anyway, and yeah, it was a bit of worry, but we've seen from last bit that he has a good ADC, so he should pick it up, I suppose. Let's go to the next game. We've got Nordavind.
Another big game.
Yeah, it is a big one as well. Yeah, Nordavind against Excel, and you're obviously going for Nordavind, aren't you, Tom? Because you've got to predict Lummus to win.
No, right. No, I can't go. If I predict Nordavind, then I'm predicting BTXL to go 0-2, and that is a joke. But Mummus is good.
Listen to your heart or your head, Tom.
It's BT. It's going to be BT. I think it's going to be BT this game. I think that BT will, if they do lose to Riddle, will want to win this game even more. It could genuinely be a case where they beat Riddle and lose to Nordavind or one of the others. This is actually 2 difficult games, I think, for BT overall, because these are the 2 which I would have like I said, I would consider like the contenders in the group, and then you've kind of got the rest in Group A. So this is BT's chance to kind of show us how good they are, and kind of how good the league is around them, because like the team hasn't changed too much. And so it'd be interesting to see how these 2 sides can compete against them. But I do think, actually, though, BTXL are going to beat Nordavind, because I do think that Nordavind's strength is in that kind of top lane. Like, they have got moments. They've got other good players around that as well. However, they're a different side to Riddle, and I think BTXL actually might be able to exploit that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. I was really impressed with Nolte in week 1. He was another one we'd said that, well, maybe question marks. He has had questions.
The issue with Nolte has never been his skill. It's his consistency.
Yeah, and both games last week, I thought he did really well. I've still gone for XL. I've listened to my head. I think they're just still too strong for. Well, again, we've mentioned we've only seen like 1 game from them, so it's still a bit tricky. Or did we see 2 from XL actually?
We saw 1, but it was one. God sent. So it's
exactly.
What do you really get from that?
So other teams may have caught up a bit, and we just haven't seen them tested yet. So it will be an interesting one. But yeah, I'm still going for XL until I've seen a bit more. At least I'm not going to go for any huge upsets just yet, I don't think. What about you, Josh?
I mean, I've got to go with XL as well. I think they're although Nordavind are good, I think XL are a level above most of the rest of the competition.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
I don't really have too much to say. I think they're just straight out better.
Yeah. Well, then the third game was Godsent against Riddle. I've gone for Riddle. I think that's a fairly obvious one. But the fact that Godsent got 1 win against obviously a Singularity that wasn't playing well. But we mentioned earlier the fact that they are just a group. I think it was 4 out of 5 players that had won like a Danish qualifier, and they might not be the strongest team, and probably by the end of the split they won't be. But I suppose it means the fact that they are pretty much a full team that's come, with experience playing together. It might mean that in the opening weeks they do get 1 or 2 more wins than we kind of expected, because the other teams may be gelling still, and this side are pretty much all just together from those couple of qualifiers I think they played in already. But yeah, it's still. I think that would still be a step too far for me to go for them over Riddle. I'd imagine you guys would think the same, or have you got any mad upsets?
I mean, I'm gonna go Godsent. I think Godsent are gonna be. They're gonna be on a massive high after beating Singularity, and I think they've got absolutely nothing to lose. And I think if Riddle are gonna drop a game, it's probably gonna be right at the start of the split. So.
I suppose, well, if you've got Riddle, they've got... Yeah, Riddle have got XL as their other game this week. Who are they really going to be prepped for? XL or Godsent? They're going to be just solely focused on XL, aren't they?
They're going to lose to XL, and they're gonna hard tilt, and then they're going to run it down versus Godsent. Guaranteed. But yeah, no, I mean...
so you want to change the XL Riddle one, then? You want to... Oh, no, wait, I'm chatting. I'm chatting shit. I'm getting myself confused now. Never mind. Change the subject. Tom, what are you going for?
I like the optimism. If Godsent does win, I don't. Oh no, they can't. Like I don't think they can. Like I get what they say with like there is like the chance of momentum, and I really appreciate the fact that if this does go through, then you're kind of entering the guest predictions, which is really nice because I nearly
like a
lost them last
genius.
play.
It's great. There you go.
But I have to go for Riddle. I cannot have them saying, oh yeah, they're gonna beat BTX out and then lose to Godsend the next game. I mean, it'd be great. It would be great, but no, I think the Riddle are a strong enough side. I think that they've looked like a really good side. They looked good against Ents, and I do think that even though their priority may be on BTXL, they're not like they're not a side which I think is saying that we're going to win the division. So I think they're going to prepare for kind of every side very similar, and maybe even prepare for the Godsent side more after that victory, despite it being maybe kind of Similarity's fault for a little bit of their play. But the Godsent still ended up winning, and so maybe the fact that Godsent did win might have actually got some teams to say, well, you know, we can't take them. We still have to pay attention to this side because they are still like a side which can do something.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And then last game we've got Tricked against M&M. I've gone for Tricked on this one. It's kind of for a similar reason we've spoken about, that they, you know, we'd had rated them fairly highly before, maybe higher than some people had. But yeah, the opening week they did look pretty good, and I especially like the fact that they are playing something different. I mean, like Azir top. The last time I remember seeing Azir top was I'm not even going to remember who was playing it, but it was in like a Forge of Champions qualifier or something. I think we did an episode on it, Tom, and it was a guy got swapped to play Azir top.
Yes,
meant to be like a counter pick.
It was hybrid. I think it was hybrid. I believe it might have been like hybrid esports when they had the UK side, and yeah, the mid laner went top and he went like 0-7, and it was horrible because all they did was just kept bullying him.
Yeah,
and it felt really bad for the
guy. I saw Wiseau. I saw like I think it was like a last second swap they did in Champ Select, and I just instantly got like flashbacks to watching that game. But you know, thankfully for them, that's not what happened. And it worked out, and Eren, I think that it wasn't like a totally random comp, I suppose. Like I think Elise Pantheon is like a known sort of duo for diving, because they can just, where you got point and click stun, and you can drop turret aggro and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know.
It wasn't a convincing game though. Like it wasn't a convincing game. Like Dusty did hold their own against them, and you know, maybe if they did actually have more of a traditional side, they might have showed a little bit more than what they could have done. It did feel a little bit like, I don't think the draft was actually that good, to be quite honest. I just think that Trick just played better.
To be fair, Eren did. Yeah, Eren got a few early kills, I think, on Pantheon, and then like Pantheon does drop off, and I get what you mean. Later on in the game, it wasn't, you know, totally cut and dry. I don't think. What are you going for then, Tom, on that one?
I'm gonna go for Tricked, not Rigged. I'm gonna go for Tricked. Again, it's that unsurety with M&M. I think that next week, I think we're kind of gonna get kind of more of a feel of, because some teams have played 3 times, some teams have played 2 times, so we're gonna get a little bit more of a feel of where this division is gonna go, and especially like with the development, like I said, with Monk and how that works. But I think that if we're going off kind of individual strength of who I look through in the lane right now, I think that Tricked look like a better side. And again, like I said, I don't think Tricked played particularly. They played well, but I don't think the comp actually suited the meta which we're in really right now. It just felt a bit kind of too aggressive, and if that's the way they want to play, it'd be good, but it'd be interesting to see them kind of pick up these more meta champs, actually have an Azir mid or something like that, and see how they do against that. And hopefully it's kind of not, because you don't want to be stuck in a niche. And maybe they'll revert to more of a standard style against M&M, and we'll see how it goes. Because I can imagine, with it being Monk, I can imagine them deciding to... Oh, there's something buzzing. Sorry about that. I can imagine them deciding to kind of focus a little bit more on that mid lane, because I don't know, maybe I don't know too much, but I feel like if an ADC swap into mid lane and hasn't really shown it that much, you're kind of looking at mid lane and thinking, right, that's where we could probably find a window to win. Also, I think M&M would also be looking at that, hopefully, and trying to work around how to counteract that as well. But I could see it being a lot more of a mid lane contested matchup as opposed to where Tricked were kind of playing all over the map, essentially, at some points in the game. So, yeah, so Tricked, essentially.
What you going for then, Josh?
I mean, I'm gonna go Tricked as well. I think Soft Achieve had, the golden trio. I think
They'll be on to you if you don't say that, basically.
yeah, I'm gonna get some angry messages in my DM. What are you doing? But no, I think Trickter will be a top 6 roster by the end of the split in terms of the overall, not in terms of in their group, because obviously there's only 6 in the group, so.
You had to make that one clear.
Gotta clarify that, yeah. But I think Tricks are good and they have a good roster, and I think obviously after beating Dusty, I think they're going to be on and up. So yeah, I think it's going to be a Trick win.
Cool. I think with that then, that's the end of the predictions, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. Any last topics anyone had in mind, or anything you wanted to get out off your chest? Anyone?
Mulgrew, which group do you think is stronger, B or A? Like personally.
God, let me just double check what the groups are. I think, God, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because Group A's got Nordavind, Excel, Riddle, who I think are all really good, and Group B's got Fnatic, us, Tricked. I'm probably gonna go Group B. I think, I think they're fairly equal in strength, but I think. Group A, I think Nordavind, Excel, Riddle are clear top 3, and then I think in Group B, Fnatic and us are a clear top 2, and I think Tricked and Dusty are probably the strongest ones there, and I think Barrage and M&M are probably a bit stronger than Singularity / maybe Godsend. So I think Group B on average is probably
I would say that Group A kind of has more of a. Like you can look at Group A and think, right, there's a top 3 there, I think, and then you would probably then toss it up between like Ents and Singularity. I when I was looking at kind of like when the groups in 4, I was like, to be fair, if you're Godsend, if you're ranked so low, I don't think you're actually too bothered about getting into this group, because you do actually have a chance of getting that 4th spot. I would say more of a chance than what you were doing if you're in Group B. Because say if Godsend replaced M&M or Dusty or something like that, I couldn't see Godsend beating kind of like Barrage, Tricked, on the other 4. Where I could see a world, despite obviously we having them so low, and they've beaten Team Singularity. So really, all they need to do is do better than Ents and Team Singularity, and they could actually get into a playoff run. But I think that both groups actually, I think, worked out quite even, in as well as they could be. It would have been horrible to have seen like Riddle gone into Group B as well, or I think that would have been maybe a bit too top heavy. But you have got like 2 clear sides in Group B, 3 clear sides I would say in Group A, and then you kind of got the rest which can fight for those remaining spots. So I think the seeding worked out pretty well in the end.
Yeah, I think so too. Right, on that, I think we can finish up for this one. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Josh. Been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, and thanks for everyone that's watching. I think we had a few feeding in on Twitch, and we got a few followers as well, which is nice. If you are watching on Twitch still, you can follow on there. Otherwise, if you're watching this later on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify, you can obviously follow on all of those too. And our Twitters are all on the screen, so you can follow all of us personally and just have constant stuff from all of us. And yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. So thanks for listening. Yeah, see you next time.